So, Jeopardy. When asked for definitions of Jeopardy these days, very few people are going to say it means to be at risk. Most will tell you it's a game or game show. The very cleverest answer I got was, what is it to be at risk? And say the word, and more than a few of you will start to hum the music in your head, or have it incessantly because it was the pre-show music. And how many of you could think during the opening of that meditation? No one. And yet when you look it up on the interweb, it's called think music. But it's not. It's actually stress music. It's designed so that you're like, what can I possibly think about? It's pressure music. So being able to focus through that is meditation. That's your meditation lesson. The word actually, however, in this wonderful circle of possibility that I just love from an etymological point of view, is the word goes back to Old French, meaning to place at risk in a game, to play, or to game. And it was indeed while watching this show that I was feeling very lost, my multiplicity of labels, and who was I, and I had this very modern epiphany. Watching a game show. Because it essentially is something perhaps spiritual when we look about it. Because everything you need to know, and every way you can win is placed in the form of a question. Labels are not bad. We don't and cannot ever not have labels, no matter what we want to feel about, because society and culture dictates it. And so I started thinking and questioning, well, maybe it's not the labels we see and wear that are as dangerous as the categories that they're placed in and the value that gets ascribed to them. See, labeling and categorizing is endemic to our society. Actually, it's hardwired into our species. It's so ubiquitous that even as we rail against the idea of labels, as the first principle proclaims the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and I personally like to say the inherent worth and dignity of every being, we do so under the proud label of Unitarian Universalist in the category of liberal religion. We are label and category creating animals, because what are words if they're not labels? Right? What are words? They're symbols for ideas. It's how we see our world, it's how we organize our world, it's how we create the world we live in. But without awareness and the continuing questioning of what we see, those labels disappear into the fabric of culture, and thus many of us take actions against our own best interests and against the very world that we say that we're trying to build. We work against what we profess that we believe. I mean, the examples are myriad and all around us, from the food we eat to the tools we use. We have bumper stickers, driving here. Bumper sticker, proudly proclaiming pro-life. We wear bumper stickers that are pro-life, and we deny all of the essential tools needed for that life once born to survive. Healthcare, food, services, responsible education. And yet, then we say we're pro-choice, while dismissing the 17-year-old who has made the choice to keep her baby. We say that she's ignorant, or that the education system failed, or that she didn't have enough knowledge. These are obvious examples, but I want to delve deeper into the areas where we create our worlds that are not these sort of simple dualities, but the complex web that we are weaving every time we speak. I work with a canine partner in chaplaincy, some of you know this. I call him Tommy, although his full name is Giving Paws Ami Tomodachi. I have no idea if he's named himself. He has many labels. He's a poodle, a standard poodle, a canine good citizen, a reading education assistance dog, a therapy dog, and my friend. When I used to visit at the VA and in crisis response work, my partner was also called my equipment. He is my employee. He's also my property, because we have no other legal avenue that define our relationship. No matter how how much the term pokes at my heart and the privileged, shamed white wound that I walk around with. Each of these labels served a function, or serves one. I mean, at least it was useful in some capacity at some moment in time. And yet, they also place the other labels in jeopardy. How can Tommy be family and property? We're the fourth family for Tommy, and I'm often asked, oh, the fourth family? Oh, so he's a rescue dog. Depending on my mood, I might say, yes, he rescues me daily. Or I might say the rescue is mutual. The family he was with when we met him could no longer keep him. They had lost their home in a housing disaster. Then the husband had lost his job. There was a toddler, and the wife was 7 months pregnant. They had no health insurance. It is really very cheap to say we have rescue dogs without much thought to where they come from. But Tommy, having found his original pedigree, is a puppy mill dog. Pets raised purely for profit, often in less than ideal, if not truly abysmal circumstances and conditions. People who would never consider buying a puppy from a pet store proudly proclaim their dogs are rescue dogs, including those new designer mixed breeds that are so popular right now. To the point where several northeastern animal shelters and adoption agencies are paying people in Appalachia $5 a puppy for their unwanted, unplanned litters. And they'll say, but $5 isn't that much, and it helps them out. We could also reframe that as they're being budged for $5 or $40 a litter, which is life-saving money to some people. Because, see, in the Northeast and in much of suburbia, the spay and neuter message has gotten out there. Spay and neuter your pets. How many of you have pets? How many of you have spayed and neutered pets? But the market and desire for puppies has not dropped. Just yesterday was another Clear the Shelters Day all over this country because we have a serious disposable pet culture. But what we have is a serious disposable culture. I used to say we just have too much of a good thing. And then, of course, we've got the value that we place on purebreds, which some of it is really valid. I mean, don't we want every baby to be a wanted baby? Born into a home that's got enough health care for it and enough food that will give it early enrichment? Yet, even responsible breeders are vilified every day by companion animal groups, pet sites. But this is still, because, I speak in metaphor and simile, this is all about labels and culture, the categories we put them in. See, the real issue is what words and labels make us feel good. I mean, if I have a rescue dog, I get to feel a little bit like a hero, even as I'm wearing Who Rescue Who paw print t-shirt this evening. But if I pay big bucks for an intentionally well-bred dog, and there can be no doubt that I bought something, $1,000 is a fair going price for a responsibly well-bred animal, companion animal these days. Thus, well-bred, sound dogs are pets of privilege. One of the statistics I regularly wrestle with is this really uncomfortable algorithm. One of the single greatest predictors of race is pet ownership. We don't mention it when we speak about pets owners living longer, or being healthier, or being more active. And I could not find deep data where they integrated those statistics. So next time you hear some flashy ad touting the benefits of owning a pet, selling you their fancy, expensive dog food, think also about, are they touting universal health care? Or nutrition in food deserts? Or who was most impacted by the mortgage and housing crisis? Instead of asking if Tommy is a rescue dog. Because none of us want to walk around with a label racist. We don't want to be in the category of bad guys. It doesn't help. Instead of that, we might claim we are colorblind. How many of you have ever used that phrase? You don't have to raise hands, that's okay, that would be shaming. all do it. To say you are colorblind is a core white privilege statement no person of color can make. So instead of seeing ourselves as racist, we avoid the label, unaware that we're shaping the world as we do. As someone very wise recently said, white privilege doesn't mean your life has been hard. It means your skin color isn't one of the things making it harder. But by avoiding the labels of privilege and racism, we blind ourselves to how we contribute to ongoing racism and privilege. Who is rescuing who? For us to write the stories of our future that are not racist, not misogynistic, not homophobic, we have to see that we are all sitting also in those categories. Yes, you can be a woman and be misogynistic. Yes, you can be a person of color and be racist. And yes, you can be gay and be homophobic. Perhaps we need to stop seeing the diversity of our world, but see the complexity, the intersectionality, the full web of life. Because we are never going to stop labeling and categorizing. That's not going to happen. I mean, one of the reasons that we see color, some evolutionary theories postulate, is we see color so that we don't eat the dangerous red berries that will kill us. We put red and berries into a category that said toxic and death. Right? That makes sense. So our evolutionary ancient selves grouped them together as red fruit, which was a little problematic when it came to tomatoes. But we solved that. We put tomatoes into the fruit, and we put tomatoes into the vegetable category, right? You've heard the joke. You know, the wisdom of fruit salad. Ask someone that someone has heard this joke. They will share it with you at coffee hour. You've got something to talk about. The problem is that you've got strawberries, but you cut them in half and then they're hard. Because we can adapt, folks. We can keep creating categories that work with us. But nevertheless, when you're in the woods and you see a small round red berry that you cannot identify, should you put that berry in your mouth? No, of course you shouldn't. Nor should you eat any of the mushrooms unless you're with a really certified, what do they call them, fungologists? Anyway, I've digressed. Mycologist, yes. So don't eat those mushrooms, and don't eat those red berries. And that works really well in the Paleolithic. The problem is that we have grown since then. We have advanced since then. Our families have gotten smaller, and the family of man has gotten much, much bigger. And so we have moved beyond our tribe into many tribes. And we've also moved beyond to I belong to one tribe. I belong to many tribes, as I do suspect most of you. I have many labels, I have many categories. I am, like in no particular order, I'm an animal, because that comes first for me. And then I'm a human. And then I identify as a woman. And I am a daughter, and a wife, and a mother, and a preacher, and a pastor, and a poet, and an artist, and a dog trainer, and I can keep on going, and I bet every single person here can too. But yet, how many of you have been asked, or have asked of someone, or introduced someone with, what do you do? Oh, this is my wife. Label. Oh, she's the minister. Label. When you meet people, I mean, that label is part that provides your societal worth in economic and or cultural terms. And I know many, many women who struggle with this. And there are more than a few books on it as well. Just as the very real depression and loss of identity that many men feel when they find themselves unemployed from a career path. I mean, you can lose your identity, a layoff, a firing, an accident, an empty nest, chosen retirement. Our identities get wound up in our labels, the labels that we have been given by society and that we've stepped into. The ones we are given when we're very young, they can follow us all our days. What labels, however, do you give yourself? I often counsel people, you've heard it from here, never talk to yourself in any tone or voice that you would use on a 3-year-old. But I want to shift that a little bit today. I want you to think about what were the labels that you received as a child. The positive ones. You're cute. Oh, it's so cute. Look at the cute baby. To the not so positive ones. Both of those can be causes for growth or avoidance. When it avoids, step into it just a little bit. You know me, I like to pray with props. So I find it can engage me in ways that other avenues can't. So I want you to try spending a moment at home, in your private, with a Post-it and a pen. Imagine a pen. Okay, and as quick as you can, I want you to start writing all the labels you can think of. And you're going to write them, and you're going to stick them on here. You're going to write another one, and you're going to stick it on here. You're going to write another one, and you're going to stick it on here. And you're just going to keep on going for about 5 minutes, and they can be all the good ones, and all the bad ones, and all the ones that you can think about until you've got 5 minutes and you're kind of exhausted with this. And you are just covered with every single label that you can possibly imagine. Then you're going to sit with them in the silence. You know the Jeopardy ones. And one by one you're going to peel them off. And is that a label I want to keep? Yeah, I kind of like that one. You might look at a label that others see you as that you can't not keep. So what does it mean to live with that label? And then you might find this label and go, I don't want that label. I want that label. I don't want that label. And one by one, you take those labels and then you're just going to burn them. I don't have a burn pot, so I'm not going to do that right there. Then you take all the other ones. You just put them someplace, like in a journal, go back to. Because we get to choose our labels, we get to sit with them and find out what that means. What does the label mean when I have racist on my hand? What does it mean to sit with that label knowing that I have benefited from my privilege? What does that mean to what I do forward? It doesn't necessarily mean I can get rid of that label any more than I can get rid of the label of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant came over here on the Mayflower label. That's part of my DNA. But it also means I get to wear a label that says social activist. You can wear more than one label. All of your labels have stuff to teach you. I don't have to wear the label that says something that other women will give me. But I do have to wear the ones that I declare are mine. And I unfortunately have to wear the ones that are part of my organic self in this world. So shall we play a game?
Sure.
I don't know. Let's go back to the board. Categories. 3-letter words for the holy. 3-letter words for the holy. First one, God. God. 3-letter words for the holy, it's God, right? Okay, that's a low value because it was really easy. That's how the game plays. It's a low value. Really, it's also kind of like, because how many people have conflicted ideas, feelings with that word? Oh, like a lot of you. This is a you congregation here. It's like, it's the G, yeah, you know. So that goes there. So the answer would be, what is God? What is God? Next might be, what is Dad? Dad. I mean, okay, some of us have conflicted relationships with our fathers, especially if we have more than one father. Dad, our Father, who art in heaven. 3-letter word for the holy. What is that? What is Mom? What is Mom? Oh, more challenging. Like, in whose image? What is Mom? What is Mom? Mary? A goddess? Your own mom? Her mom? Your great-great-great-great-grandma? What is Mom? What is kid? I mean, I could have been really easy and said, what is son, right? But that would have been low level, because most people would go, oh yeah, son. What is son? But what is kid? Because isn't every child holy? Aren't all children holy? And the final category, boop, 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 daily double. They don't know the sound of the daily double. What is you? is you. We all have certain dualities in this life. We are holy, and we are children of the holy. We are sacred, and we are profane. We place ourselves in jeopardy, and we seek salvations. We rescue, and we need to be rescued. But what we ascribe value to shapes the possibilities of what those salvations will look like. It creates what they will feel like. What we give value to shapes and constructs and gives birth to our world. And what is the tool that we need for this holy construction, for this holy reconstruction? Compassion. It heals the blinders of our culture. Whatever cultures we come from, whatever our early family life was like, whatever kind of adolescence we lived through, God, whatever cultures we come from, compassion gives us pause to see the truth. It is the balancer of our discerning nature. The evolution. Evolution has honed for fine home for our survival. But part of that we forget is that our compassion as a species is part of that evolutionary toolkit. And we forget that. We are not taught that. And we need to remember that. I believe compassion is our best evolutionary compass as we learn to play the game of life on the maps that we have been given. Karuna Hum. Karuna Hum is the Sanskrit words for I am compassion. It's a chant, it's a mantra. Karuna, Karuna Hum. Karuna is compassion. Hum is I am. So you could just give voice anytime, driving in a car. Karuna Hum. Karuna Hum. Karuna Hum. I am compassion. I am compassion. Sits in a different place. Feels a little different to say I am compassion. Like the syntax isn't quite right. Or it pokes us in a way that sounds like where we go it. Because we've been taught not true humility and not truly how to be humble. But we've taught how to have this kind of gloss of a label of not wanting to be seen as being full of ego. In her blog, Aim Happy, Jennifer Williams writes of 7 Sanskrit mantras for meditation and gratitude. And she shared those from the Chakra Center on a retreat that she went to, and I'm now sharing them with you. And it's been shared over and over and over again, and you can now take this out and share it with somebody else. But I really sort of like the languaging of the Chakra Center, so I'm going to use it. Quote, when I have no judgment, this is their definition of karuna, I see everyone with kindness. Compassion is the knowing that because you are human and I am human, that we are really more alike than we could ever be different. I choose compassion over judgment, and by doing this, I become a conduit for peace, understanding, and happiness. If I judge another, I become a separation. I create a gulf of separation, and instead, I will find reasons to be thankful for that person's presence in my life. I will not condemn, but I will love. This is the key one that I really like. We may not be able to rid ourselves of judgment. And I will say we cannot rid ourselves of judgment. But when we stop identifying with those judgments, we make space to love more. When we stop identifying with those judgments, you are a this, I am a that. I am a this, you are a that. We create space to love more. We've been taught that love is blind, but I really don't think that's true. I think that that is another clause. I think it is only with love that we can see our world and each other clearly. I think it's with the eyes of love, with the hands of love, with the feet of love, with the stomach, with the heart, with the mind, with the voice of love, that we can find categories of compassion, that we can start seeing labels of healing and salvation in every being that we see. So what labels do you give yourself? Are they truthful? And if they're not truthful, because sometimes I'm like, I am compassion, is not always truthful. Are they aspirational? I aspire to this, so I will call this out in myself. I am a kind woman, even though I have moments where I know I have been unkind. Are they aspirational, or are they destructive? And if they're destructive, don't not look away. Find out what they are. Do they hide your holy, your particular personal holy from the world? Or do you hide behind them so that you don't have to share your holy with the world? We have many labels, many categories. Play with them. Play with them. Let no one try to reduce you or themselves to just one. I am not a this or a that. I am this and that. I'm all that. They are too. It's not simply categories of good versus evil. It's a journey forward filled with risk and triumph and daily doubles. But only if you, if I, if we are all in this together, inherently struggling and inherently worthy. Go out, be your cute selves. Share your holy